People who have completely ruined somebody's life. What happened and why? Did you do it? I sent an anonymous tip to the police that this guy had a significant amount of drugs in a hidden compartment in his car and that he regularly sold them to underage teens. I also tipped them off that he was driving without this vehicle around without a valid license in case they needed a reason to pull him over. These tips inevitably led to him being investigated, arrested, charged, and sentenced to a significant number of years in prison, both for the drugs and other things that were discovered about him. Why did I do it? He was in a relationship with a family member of mine for several years and was emotionally abusive and controlling to her throughout. No matter what he did to her, she refused to leave him. Then she discovered he was cheating and confronted him, at which point the abuse turned physical. He became increasingly violent after that. She didn't want to report any of it because she didn't want to start any drama with his family and she didn't want anyone to know what was going on. Embarrassed or ashamed, I guess. After a particularly violent incident that put her in the hospital, I thought that if I didn't do something then next time he would kill her. So, I took the information I had that she had confided to me about previously. I found a public computer and I used it to contact that police. I made sure I included as many details as possible so they'd know it wasn't a joke. Not too long after that, they showed up at his door with a warrant to search his car and things went on from there. She never put it together that I was the one who alerted the police. I will never tell her either. A few years after he went away, she met a genuinely great guy who treats her well, and she's happier than I ever saw her. I don't regret what I did at all. There was a group of 3 kids in my class that was passing around a paper amongst themselves. Surprisingly, they were all in the popular crowd too. After class, I was gathering all my stuff and found it on the floor, so I pick it up and look at it. I know, I'm a nosy bastard. It had very detailed plans as to how they were going to kill the teacher, like down to how to make sure there was no witnesses or evidence. The first thing I did was wait until everybody cleared out of the hallway and gave it to the poor teacher in question. Do you want to know what happened to those kids? They got a slap on the wrist. They went to the principal's office and got 5 days of in-school suspension. After years of suffering through my brother's idiocy and downright illegal behavior, I turned him in for taking out multiple credit cards in my name. I was trying to buy a house and I had no idea why I had 3 credit cards instead of 1. Even more importantly, I didn't know why 2 of them were maximum out. He broke into my parents' safe. They actually used my mom's birthday as a combination, got all of my personal information, and took out credit cards. He did it to my parents too. This was after he had stolen jewelry, sentimental grandmother's jewelry, right out of my drawer. He threatened to stab my mom. He stole one of my dad's work vans. Somehow he managed not to go to jail, but he's on probation with a long record. I built homes into a residence for families that were living in scrap shacks. These regions became even more inundated by cartel violence over the years. Some of these families were murdered by the cartels for their homes. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. He deserved it. Okay, so I'm kinda a pot person and play a long game. My ex never bothered to pay attention and thought he was always smarter than me. I was finishing school and became deeply depressed and thought that finishing school would make my depression go away. I was right, but he didn't see that. But before he broke up with me, he helped me move. He used the occasion to steal all paperwork for my dog. After we broke up, he decided that my dog was actually his and made my life hell because I wouldn't just give him my dog. He called the cops all the time saying I had robbed his place, that I stole his dog, that I did all these terrible things. The police, or someone posing as them, never figured that out, would call my boss at my new job. He told everyone we knew that I was some nut job threatening him. He sued me for my dog in superior court. Well, I assume so, because he never specified that he wanted the dog back in the complaint. I answered in a way only an attorney could figure out how to resolve, so he never prosecuted the suit further. But he then broke into my apartment while I was at work and stole my dog. It was awful. He had secretly made a copy of my keys when he had helped me move, and I don't know if he had been in my place before that incident. I wasn't able to get a restraining order, and it took the police 9 months to assign a detective. I told the cops not to bother, because he had given away my dog to his relative on the other side of the country by that point. So, through all this, I kept my hands and thoughts to myself. I gathered up all paperwork I could get. I filed notices to the court in his suit against me with updates about the dog nipping. Then, I waited. I know that in the long run everything evens out, and I would have my day. About 18 months after he stole my dog, I got all calls from the security clearance people in the army, but had enlisted to a position requiring clearance. It was a job he had been wanting. Well, I said I'd be happy to tell the agency everything I knew. I gathered up my file, made notes, booked a nice conference room at my nice office, made a copy of the paperwork for the investigator, etc. It was a nearly 4-hour interview. I gave them everything. How he stole my dog, who his Adderall dealer was, how he hated different religious groups, you name it. He didn't get his clearance, never went to the Army's language school, and got stuck at a podunk base in West Texas for 5 years. He's now fat, bald, single, unemployed and sleeping on his kid brother's couch. Life equals to over. Between my freshman and sophomore year in high school, my mother's boyfriend began staying over at our second-floor apartment in North Jersey. I didn't mind, because he seemed to treat her well, and was nice enough to me and my younger brother. Near the end of the summer, he began to drink more and more often, and tell stories of being in the military in South America. He was 6 feet 2 inches, and weighed about 260 pounds, kind of muscular with a big chest and torso. I would guess he was early 40s. He claimed he had done the old palm strike to the nose death blow, which he stated sent bone shards into the brain. He claimed to know over 40 more ways to kill a man barehanded through military and martial arts training. I went away to sleepaway varsity football camp at maybe 165 pounds and 5 feet 7 inches, 15 years old. I would describe myself as athletic, but not very aggressive. I preferred to be a thinking competitor that valued technique and determination over strength and anger. After that week away, I felt like I had a better concept of the physics of being an offensive guard and a middle linebacker. I was going to start at JV inside linebacker and guard, and be third string on the varsity for those positions. But I did get to start on kickoff and kick return special teams. That meant I was occasionally hitting and blocking seniors who were man-sized 200 pounds plus sized athletes effectively. The evening I got home, as I climbed the stairs to our apartment, the sound of arguing was distinct. I recognized the voices of my mother and her boyfriend. I never heard them argue before. I entered the kitchen and started getting food from the fridge. As soon as I dropped my giant duffel bag of nasty practice clothes, my mother was now yelling for him to get out of the bedroom. Something smashed. I rushed in to see that my mother had thrown a lamp at him, and he was still coming towards her. I get between them and tell him that he has to go. He ignores me and tells my mom to calm down and starts trying to walk through me. I put my hands on his chest. Since he continues to walk, I drive him back into the kitchen with my newly improved offensive line skills. I stop and back away when his back hits the wall. He said something to the effect of, "This not the time to try and be a man." My mother opens the door to the hallway and the stairs and yells for him to get out. She said that he had hurt her. I look at my mother and finally notice her eyes are swollen and bruised. Her nose is bleeding, so is her top lip. There is blood on her shirt. I realize that he had hit her. I turn back to this enemy, is what I remember thinking. He had gotten into some sort of martial arts stance and warned me to stay out of it because I know what he could do. He was drunk. I was going to throw him out. I rushed him. He missed his strikes. I locked my arms around his waist, probably airing him out with my shoulder hitting his gut hard, and easily spun his back towards the door. I drove my legs. My mother got out of the way and told me to stop. I didn't stop until he was out in the hall at the top of the staircase. I stopped driving and blocked the door. My mother told him to leave. He seemed confused and started walking back towards our door. I don't remember planning it. I executed a spot-on stepping sidekick into his sternum. He fell down a full flight of stairs, damaging the banister as well as his legs and head. No obvious cuts, but he was visible swelling and limping as my mother threatened to call the cops. He drove away. My mother cried and was scared to call the police, and scared because she knew he had guns and lots of knives in his house and car. I didn't know how to comfort her. During the next couple of days, she found us a new apartment in Jersey City where I had always lived and missed. A little over a year in Bayonne, the town next door was over. I continued attending Marist High School and never told any of the teachers or guidance counselors about the incident. I told a few friends and one long-term high school girlfriend. I played sports every season. Swimming, spring track, and football. They were an important escape and valuable to me in a different way than before. I rocked the SAT with 1330 back in those 1600 top score days of 1991. I made myself different that day, not all for the good or for the bad. My mother and I never had any problem with that ex-boyfriend. Less than a week after the incident, he drove himself to the parking lot of different high school and killed himself in his car with a shotgun. We still moved. I'm 42 years old now with 3 kids of my own, married for over 17 years. I've owned my own business for over 14 years. I think about this incident every time summer ends and try to put it out of my head before autumn begins. My mother was a drug addict who killed herself by intentional overdose about 8 years ago. I confronted my mom when I suspected she was having an affair with an underage boy. She denied it, and my family hated me for causing drama and repeatedly accusing her. Eventually, she confessed and went to prison. My dad stood by her. I saw him cry for the first time ever, but she still treated him like crap. He visited her every single visitation. After being released, she was on strict probation for years. She wasn't able to return to her job. My dad finally divorced her because she was still selfish and always blamed other people for what happened. They had a lot of debt at the time and now she is impoverished. But she never said sorry or took responsibility for what she did. So I try not to feel too guilty. In middle school, my friend and I really got into catfishing, but back then we didn't know it had a name. We would make fake MySpace profiles and get on chat rooms pretending to be other people. There used to be a cell phone company called Alltel. They had prepaid phones with unlimited texting, as long as you had minutes, and you could change your number just by calling and following automated instructions. So, we would always talk to all these people pretending to be someone else, and when someone busted us or got too weird, we'd just change our number. Sometimes we would even switch phones over the weekend and pretend to be each other's pretend identities. I don't know why. We were weird dumb kids. Well, my friend ended up with this extra weird dude. She told him she was 15, which was actually 2 years older than she really was. He was a serious pervert and wanted her to do some really weird crap, like send him naked pictures while she's laying in her parents' bed. Pretty much everything he wanted her to do involved sneaking around her parents, like he got off on knowing she could be caught by them at any time. Of course, she never did any of that because he thought she was a petite blonde white girl, but she was really Native American. Then he starts wanting her to sneak out and meet him. It was more like he wanted to sneak in through her bedroom window and make love with her while her parents slept in the next room. Like I said, we were dumb and decided to take the opportunity to do our own version of To Catch a Predator. But we didn't actually want to meet the guy, so we sent him next door to my mean neighbor's house. He once shot my dog with a BB gun for peeing in his driveway. It was the reason behind our decision. He drove from an area code on the other side of the state. Don't know exactly what town he lived in. We turned out all the lights and ran around trying to peek out of the curtains to see, but we never really got a good look. He started calling her phone back to back, and we start hearing shouting, then gunshots. It did not come from a BB gun. My parents woke up, and we watched the guy get taken away in an ambulance and his truck was impounded. My parents were really freaked out. They thought our neighbor got robbed. I don't know what that guy told my neighbor or the police he was doing there. I never found out anything about it. But I'm going to guess he didn't tell them he was there trying to make love with a 15-year-old. I'm not sure if it ruined his life, but I'm sure it messed him up quite a bit. This all happened over a decade ago. One thing I know for sure is I'm monitoring my children's online activities. I've shared this before on Reddit a long time ago. I'll share it again because honestly, talking about it helps me try to process and understand it. It snowed out the lowest thing I've ever done. It took years for me to accept that I'd done it and move past the guilt. I got married really young, at 17, and was divorced by 20. I moved back home a complete wreck and began drinking heavily and getting into drugs. Not an excuse, just a fact. I wasn't in a good place mentally or emotionally. I began working part-time for a married guy. Long story short, the oldest story in the world, we began having an affair. A few months into it, he told me that he was going to convince his wife that they should have a polyamorous relationship with me. I thought there was no way it would ever happen, but I underestimated this guy's powers of persuasion because his wife went for it. Two important things I didn't know at this point. She had some fairly serious mental health issues, and the two of them had been on the rocks and near divorce for a while. So, it was basically the worst possible way to start a poly relationship. Dishonestly, and with huge unaddressed problems already existing, we carried on this 3-person relationship for about 6 months. Things deteriorated pretty rapidly because, of course, there was a crap ton of drama, too much to go into. All 3 of us had our problems and contributed to the major dysfunction. Finally, she kicked him out and filed for divorce. Then she called me, and I finally confessed that yes, he and I had a pre-existing relationship that we lied to her about. We basically manipulated her into a relationship under false pretenses and continued lying to her the entire time. They divorced, and he and I married. Of course, it was a disaster. Of course, we also wound up divorced. After we divorced, he died of a drug overdose. She and I actually wound up getting back in touch a couple of years later. I wouldn't say we became friends by any means, but we got to a place where we were mostly okay, but her life never really recovered from that ordeal. She struggled with depression. Her son went to live with his father, and she apparently had some problem with her eyes that led to a visual impairment that meant she could no longer practice her profession. About a year after we corresponded for the last time, I came across her obituary. No explanation of how she died, just that she died in her home. I have no way to know for sure, but I've always suspected suicide. I don't know that it's accurate to say I ruined her life, but I dealt her a major blow. And her mental health issues, which I don't think she ever got adequate treatment for, I think did the rest. I'm not in any way, shape, or form proud of what I did, nor do I think she remotely deserved it. But after many years of reflection and therapy, I was able to acknowledge that I didn't have to accept blame for the entire thing. There were 2 other adults who participated and made choices of their own. As my best friend put it, all 3 of you showed your butts on that one. But out of the 3 of us, she was unquestionably the most wronged. So, there it is, more or less. When I was 15, I had a teacher send me this long email professing how in love with me he was in detail with some graphic content. I went to my favorite teacher, the only adult I was close with, who sent me to the guidance counselor who got police involved. It turned into a whole undercover sting. I think I'm using that word right. The police, through my email, exchanged emails with him for months. Eventually, there was a trial and he went to jail. He had a wife and a daughter my age. I still to this day feel awful that he couldn't take her to the ice cream store or his daughter's graduation. Registered offender. I think he mostly deserved it, and I'm still glad it happened to me, and not somebody who wouldn't have had the strength and support to handle the situation. But a part of me will always secretly feel a little guilty and wonder what if I had just ignored the email. In college, one of my closest friends was this crazy dude that we'll call C. Sophomore year, it was me, 2 other dudes, and C hanging out every day. Eventually, I and the 2 other dudes joined the same fraternity. C wasn't given a bid because his grades didn't make the minimum requirement. So slowly over time, we hung out with C less and less because he started to resent our fraternity for denying him a bid. C started hanging out with the wrong crowd that was into Oxys and Xanax, and over time slowly became a junkie. We tried hanging out with him, but his behavior started to become more erratic, with him stealing from people and randomly picking fights with people during parties. We had this one huge fight where we banned him from the house. A couple months later we left the ban because we wanted to bury the hatchet. C came over that night and stayed at the party until everyone was basically passed out. Someone caught him stealing wallets out of passed out people's pockets, and he also had one of our brother's cell phones in his pocket. He got his, but kicked by one of our brothers and physically thrown out of the house. The next day I realized I was missing money and some medication from my room. I was so angry I looked up his dad's phone number and told him that his son was a junkie that steals from people to support his habit. The last I've heard of C was that his parents withdrew him from college and put him in inpatient rehab. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit like, get subscribed, and tell us which story surprised you the most in the comment section, and support the original writers with upvotes. Links in the description box.